When you think of an evil place in Middle-earth, you probably think of somewhere like Mordor, Isengard, Mirkwood, or even Angmar. This makes sense. These are the places that are the primary antagonists in the Lord of the Rings. If not these places, you might think of places like the Dead Marshes, Moria, Barrow Downs, or the Paths of the Dead, places associated with the undead, dark magic, or powerful monsters. But because these places are so high profile and so infamous, it allows other, evil, dangerous places to almost fly under the radar. And in this video, I'm going to talk about one of those places. In this video, I'm talking about the Ettenmoors, the Troll Country. If you look at a map of Middle-earth, you can see the Ettenmoors jutting out westwards into Eriador from the northern Misty Mountains. They are described as barren highlands, but if our map is to be taken as a descriptor, they must have been a reasonably formidable geographical barrier. Within these highlands, running into the foothills of the Misty Mountains themselves, were valleys known as the Ettendales. Just south of the Ettenmoors, or possibly synonymous with it, is a region called the Cold Fells, and while never actually confirmed in any lore, it is widely speculated that Mount Graham, a future Orcish stronghold, was actually located in the Ettenmoors. We don't know much about the earliest history of the Ettenmoors, and whether it was ever home to men or elves or even dwarves during the First Age, but we do know that, probably around the early Second Age at the latest, the Ettenmoors received inhabitants that would give it its other name, the Trollfells. Of course, I'm speaking about trolls. They may have actually been dwelling there during the First Age, or perhaps that is where many of them fled to after Morgoth was defeated. As for the types of trolls that lived there, well, for one, we don't know how trolls were actually different from each other, but we're told that hill trolls lived there, and given that they could be found in the Troll Shores or the Misty Mountains that were nearby, it's probable that cave trolls and stone trolls also lived there. They might all be the same thing, to be honest. During the Second Age, we know that men became increasingly widespread throughout the region. Men lived in what would be known as Angmar, to the north of the Ettenmoors, and men also lived south of the Ettenmoors, in the hilly, forested region of the Troll Shores, perhaps given that name because trolls were already raiding their way south or making lairs there. That said, there's no mention of men trying to settle the Ettenmoors. Given that it was infertile land inhabited by monstrous creatures, it probably wasn't worth the effort. When Arnor was founded, the Ettenmoors became part of its northern border, and when Arnor split into its three successor states, the Ettenmoors remained the northern border of the Kingdom of Rhudaur. If Arnor and later Rhudaur attempted to tame the Ettenmoors, no tale is told. It was around 1300 of the Third Age when true problems began in that region. North of the Ettenmoors, the leader of the Nazgul arrived in Angmar and became its Witch King. He gathered to him orcs, wicked men, and other evil creatures, and presumably the trolls from the Ettenmoors were amongst them. They may have kept a lower profile over the previous thousands of years to ensure their survival, but with a strong force gathering in the north, they too started to grow in number. In an alternate universe, the Ettenmoors would have been a natural barrier that protected Arnor's successor states, but in reality, Rhudaur was taken over from within by a hillman lord in league with Angmar, and thus the Ettenmoors proved to be a mild inconvenience at best. Angmar's forces probably crossed the highlands during their initial efforts in aiding Rhudaur against Arthedain and Cardolan, and during the invasion of Arnor in 1409, the forces of Angmar probably once again crossed the Ettenmoors to occupy Rhudaur, ending its independence. It's also possible that the elves of Lindon, Rivendell, and Lothlorien crossed the Ettenmoors in their counterattack against Angmar after the failed siege of Rivendell. After that, the Ettenmoors were deep in enemy territory, and nothing is said about them until the end of the Angmar Wars. In 1975, the Battle of Fornos was fought by the remnants of Arnor, the Elves of Lindon, and the Gondorian Expeditionary Force against the forces of Angmar, led by the Witch King. The battle was a disaster for the Witch King, and he attempted to flee to Angmar, but he was overtaken by Prince Eomer of Gondor and the Elves of Rivendell led by Glorfindel at the Ettenmoors. It was here where Prince Eomer was humiliated, later leading to his disappearance, and where Glorfindel uttered his famous prophecy about the Witch King dying not to the hands of a man. With the armies of Angmar crushed, the Free Peoples proceeded to drive out or destroy the remnants of the Witch King's servants west of the Misty Mountains. Among these were the Trolls of the Ettenmoors. Those that weren't destroyed fled east across the Misty Mountains, and the Ettenmoors were empty once again. Those few people who remained in Eriador would be safe from the menace of trolls. That said, most of the remaining people in Eriador dwelt nowhere near the Ettenmoors, except for the Dunedain Rangers, many of whom dwelt in the Troll Shores, and some as far north as the Cold Fells. Unfortunately, good things don't last forever. We're told that around 2700 the Trolls returned to the Ettenmoors in great numbers. It's possible that orcs accompanied them, and provided it is actually in the Ettenmoors, this was probably the time when Mount Graham became an orcish stronghold. From Mount Graham, the orcs launched an 8-year-long invasion of Eriador in 2740, and it's possible that the Trolls of the Ettenmoors aided them. While the orcs were defeated, the area remained a dangerous place for the rest of the Third Age. One major event occurred in 2930. Arador, chieftain of the Dunedain and Aragorn's grandfather, had a dwelling in the Cold Fells near to the Ettenmoors. The house came under threat by a band of trolls, and that same year, he was captured and killed by them. Evidently, the Rangers and the Elves of Rivendell could not stop the spread of the trolls entirely. Only 11 years after Arador's death, Thorin's company was captured by trolls in the Troll Shores not even that far from the east-west road, and we're told that some trolls managed to make lairs as far away as the North Downs. That said, skilled individuals could certainly survive for an extended period of time in the Ettenmoors. After facing the Nazgul at Weathertop, Gandalf actually rides into the Ettenmoors in an attempt to lead some of them away from the path of the Ringbearer. Unable to ride Shadowfax in the rocky highlands, he sends him away, and as a result, the whole journey from Weathertop to Rivendell takes him 15 days. After the Nazgul are swept away at the Ford of Bruinen, scouts are sent out from Rivendell to find any trace of them or other servants of the enemy. Some of these scouts are sent to the Ettenmoors, and like the others, they return with no tidings of them. Interestingly enough, one person who isn't really familiar with the Ettenmoors is Aragorn, despite how well travelled he is. At one point, while leading the hobbits through the Troll Shores, he says that they must make their way south again, because going north would lead them to the Ettendales. He says that they could attempt to reach Rivendell from that direction, but it would be a bad idea because he does not know the way, and therefore they would likely run out of food first. This actually makes me wonder whether Aragorn avoided the Ettenmoors because of what happened to his grandfather there. If the Ettenmoors played a role during the War of the Ring, then nothing is said, although it is possible that orcs and trolls launched raids against more civilized lands, and had to be fought off by the Dunedain Rangers and the Elves of Rivendell in the area. After the War of the Ring and into the early Fourth Age, the Ettenmoors probably remained a fairly wild place. With Rivendell being abandoned and the Dunedain moving westwards, it's possible that the trolls would have been left to their own devices. With Eriador having plenty of empty, far more inviting land than the Troll Shores, I think it's probable that the Ettenmoors would have remained troll country for centuries to come. That said, like all creatures of darkness, the trolls would have dwindled away until extinction, and then the Ettenmoors finally might have seen some actual civilization. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it or at least found it interesting. I feel like the Ettenmoors are an underrated piece of Tolkien's lore. Actually, I say that all of the time. The better question is, what is an overrated place in Middle-earth? Anyway, if you want to visit the Ettenmoors, you actually can in the Lord of the Rings Online, of course, but it's the PvP zone, or rather PvMP, meaning monster player. It's basically an endless battle between the Free Peoples and the forces of Angmar. You can also actually visit the Ettenmoors in the video game War in the North. I think you kill a corrupted giant or something. Cheers, farewell, and remember, when creating the Ettenmoors, Tolkien envisioned the peoples of Eriador as the English and the Trolls as the Scottish Highlanders. Fortunately though, I made that up.